Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Playbook for Performance podcast. I'm your host, Shauna Corden, and my mission is to make work fun again by building better leaders. This month we're talking all about the parallels between a coaching culture and preventing polarization. And today specifically we're going to talk about the shared principles in a coach culture and preventing polarization. So you may or may not know, I literally wrote the book on a coach culture. You can find my book available on Amazon as well as the Audible version. And it talks about what coaching is, why it works, how to do it, and how to implement it. And I regularly talk to organizations about coaching skills for leaders and how managers can have more of a coach approach with their folks. So more and more I've been investigating these principles in building my second book with a working title of Reunited. There's a little bit of history behind that, but I think the real bang for the buck has to do with preventing polarization rather than the investment in reuniting, because a lot of people don't find it's worth the effort. So let's get into it. So all of these principles are part of a coaching culture. The willingness to question one's beliefs. I talked about the research last podcast on this about doesn't matter about the mastery of the coach, doesn't matter about the mastery of or the level of the individual being coached. It all comes down to, are they willing to question their beliefs? One of the things that we talk about in coaching is that we are there to fulfill the client's goals. We're not there with an agenda. And when that happens, it means you can embrace shades of gray. Well, what do I mean by that? What I mean is when we're focused on the outcome, there's lots of possibilities on how to get there if we're focused on what's important. And sometimes the thing that we think is the hill to die on is really not that. And so as coaches, we try to ask questions like, why is this the most important thing to talk about today? Thank you, Philip Cohen. We want to coach the person, not the problem. Because if we can solve this situation for them and the behavior that's causing it in this situation, we can likely pivot it to 3 or 4 other situations in their life where they're experiencing the same thing. It's same song, different verse. I think another part of this coach culture is the willingness or embracing the idea of saying, I don't know. And I'm okay with that because it's not ego-driven. So last month when we were talking about integrity, we were talking about kind of shedding those ego identities. And that's the part of us that needs to be right, to please others, etc. Versus the, I don't know. And I'm willing to explore. And I'm interested in the possibilities that go along with it. We also want to avoid deletion, distortion, or generalization. So what are those things? Deletion is when we omit certain details. We decide to leave out the part of the story that says, well, I instigated that. We distort the truth. We say things like always, never. And we generalize. He's always this way. Or everyone thinks he's a jerk, etc. Those things are never true. I did it myself. I said never. But it's very interesting. Byron Katie's work, if you don't know it, I really encourage you to follow it. Specifically, the name of the book, The Work, that asks that question. Is it true? Do I absolutely know that it's true? And there are very few things that we absolutely know are true. So if we can say, well, to the best of my ability to research, based on the facts that I know, etc., so leave some room for possibility, leave some room for others to be accurate or right. The next piece is, have you done your own investigation or is it hearsay? So in one of my qualitative interviews that I was doing last week, a colleague was talking about an acquaintance who was always forwarding information that was, in his mind, blatantly untrue, to the point where it's like a total scam, like beyond wives' tales, the kind of thing where, I don't know, if you take a jar of mayonnaise and you leave it out overnight, that leprechauns will come, that sort of thing. And so they would forward on this information, well, without ever doing their due diligence to say, is this true? Or am I spreading rumor? Or am I, perpetuating falsehoods? And so if you're going to share information, can you confirm it? Or would it be better not to share it at all? So a lot of times when my clients come and they're upset about a situation, I'm like, okay, let's break it down. They'll say, oh, we got in this big fight and this happened and so-and-so's taking credit for my work. And that it's like, how do you know that's true? Are you absolutely true that's sure? And what is the information that you can use to validate that? Have you asked them? Have you put it to a test? So we always want to make sure that we're being accurate, that we want to be unbiased, that we want to explore the situation, that we want to give people a chance to defend themselves. If it's a character situation, then we should probably expect it and anticipate and guard against it. But if it's a first time, often we want to assume the best intentions. Okay. Finally, the last piece of this in the coaching culture is, how is this important to you? So, when it comes to the situation, is this one of your core values? How does your behavior, how does your habits support the importance of this situation? Or are you getting really worked up about something that makes no difference in 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 years? Are you getting all wound up about something that will pass? So we want to look at the context of the situation, your place in the story of that context, etc. Now, all of these pieces of a coaching culture, and there are many more, are also ones that will serve us really well in preventing polarization, because then we're not pitting ourselves against others and making one party right and one party wrong. So, the Coach Culture Workshop is really intended to teach leaders coaching skills. They're never going to be able to be a pure credentialed coach, because these leaders who have direct reports, they have an agenda. And whenever you have an agenda, you can't be practicing pure coaching. And in fact, the Coaching Federation, the International Coaching Federation, otherwise known as the ICF, does not allow you to count coaching hours of your direct reports for that very reason. So these coaching culture workshops are teaching you these coaching skills so you as a leader can do less work. You're doing more asking, less telling. And these are some of the skills that are going to help you prevent polarization in your workplace, within your teams, and with yourself and others. So one of the things that we're really going to focus on, as we do in all coaching conversations, is what is the meaning of your agenda that you've brought for today's session? What are the next actions? Because coaching without action is just entertainment, and we really need to have next actions defined, deadlines, etc. So for Fieldwork this week, we really want to ask you, for yourself, to create that awareness, because creating awareness is step one. Where are you prone to polarization? And if you've already become polarized with someone else, you've separated, there's quite a distance, where do you wish to reunite? You may not want to invest efforts in acquaintances, but you may want to in key relationships. And so far, my research tells me those are family members. So that's all for this week. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell your friends. And if I can be assistance to you, your team, teaching these skills to prevent polarization, but also use a coach approach to leadership, please send a message to podcast@shawnacorden.com. Thanks, and take good care.